Thanks for coming, folks. Don't forget, if you're driving home, don't forget the car. And be careful on the road, because 9 out of 10 people were caused by accident.
Ian, you are here with me on Poet88.com on the Yellow Couch for the first day this week. We have a very, very special guest. We have the amazing Greg Hastings. Greg, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. Hello. I think it's wonderful, yes. It's a lovely legacy to have in my life, this legacy of the Mucky Duck Bush Band.
The original story behind the Mucky Duck Bush Band. There was a book released, but there were some things in there that were left out perhaps.
It wasn't the story that I've been relating for 40 years. As far as I know, someone did ask Don Blue why, and he said he heard so many different stories, he didn't know which one to believe. That was his answer. So the actual story of how the Mucky Duck Bush Band started is actually not documented.
Founded in 1974.
Yeah.
How did it come about?
It's a fairly brief story. There was an English couple came over to the folk scene here in the 72, I think, and they ran dances with tape music like Hungarian and Greek and stuff like that in a little hall in Subiaco. They left because they were on their own visas. It all started when I was sitting around a table with my dad in Fitzgerald Street, and I said to him, I miss those dances, they were fun. And he said, well, you can get books on it. He had a Cockney accent. You can get books on it, he said. I'll get the books, you learn a couple of the dances, and we'll start them up. So we started these dances. They were like very simple Irish, English, bush dancing stuff. We got a book from over the East Coast that had been collected by a lady called Shirley Andrews. We started the dances. They became popular. We moved to a hall, the Protestant League Hall in Beaufort Street, which held 100 people. And more people came, and more people said, well, we'd love to book you for our social club, what it called. And we were, I think, we didn't have a name, we were the Folk Federation Band, really. And the Mucky Duck came up when Mum leaned over the kitchen table and said, why don't you call yourselves the Mucky Duck? And we all looked like, where did you come up with that from? And she said, the black swan on the flag of Western Australia. Mucky Duck, black swan. So that's how the name came about. And the next thing you know, that was 74, I think we named the band. And I was a printer by trade, working at the Community Education Centre here in Fremantle. I got the sack, which was quite political at the time. I fought the case. The union came down and fought the case. The lady that was the coordinator in this big public meeting stacked the meeting with some friends so that she could win the vote.
She took a dislike to you?
Yeah, she took a dislike. She liked people to just jump when she said jump, and I wasn't one of those people. The union fought it. It was clear that I wasn't incompetent, but anyway, because of the meeting being stacked, it created a great frustration that you could be right and yet lose your job. And out of frustration, I don't know whether I would have done this out of choice, but I think out of frustration and anger, whatever, I wandered into Clancy's, walked down the side of I call it the Walk of Fate, which is down from the Community Education Centre down the side,
yep, into
Clancy's, offered him a bush band. And in November 1976, the professional Mucky Duck Bush Band started up with a lagerphone. I couldn't play an instrument. I was just bashing this bottle top.
For those who don't know what a lagerphone is,
it's a broom handle with a crosspiece and bottle tops nailed to it.
Highly technical instrument.
Well, I was shown to play by Dobe Newton, the one and only, a West Australian man who helped write the song We Are One and We Are Many. Dobe was one of the authors of a few verses, I believe, of that, with Athel Guy from the Seekers. And Dobe in those days lived in Western Australia. He was a rock drummer, played in a folk band, showed me how to play the lagerphone, and I've played it ever since.
And of course you've gained extra skills since then as well.
Well, I realised that you could get away with playing Australian music with 2 chords or 3 chords, so I learned the 3 chords and became a busker in the Rundle Mall in 1979. I left the band New Year's Eve. My last gig was New Year's Eve at the Cottesloe Civic Centre, which was about 2,500 people. New Year's Eve 79, which was 78, 79.
Mm-hmm.
By that time I'd learned to play 3 chords.
3 chords. G, A and D.
And I started busking in the Rundle Mall. The dances were becoming incredibly popular then.
Mm-hmm.
And as a friend of yours just said in passing as they were going, he went to North Fremantle. And I believe they got 4,000. This was after my time. It just rolled on because it was a popular thing to do. Bush dancing is so easy, but it draws people together because it's fun. To my good fortune, it gave me a life of playing music. Or ironically, they've got an album to celebrate 40 years, and they got me to play Lagerphone on it, which was lovely. And they sing a song on that, which I was on the first album, All From the Drop. You call the dance twice and walk the audience through. That was my procedure. And I'm talking, 4 steps in, 4 steps, 8 steps across. Same again, everybody swing your partner, top couple switches to bottom. That's the simple formation of a dance called the Galopade. But when a load of people do it together, it's a real camaraderie thing. It's a real thing. They're all walking in, all out walking out, all swinging together. And it just, that energy.
With the book, I just want to revisit this for a minute. So the book that was written that has a different history, not
it's just the beginning. As far as I perused it, and my name written on the inside, thank you, Mucky Duck Bush Band. And when I read it, it was like, hang on, that's not the. As soon as I sort of read and they'd left out that story, I thought, well, that's not really how it started. It didn't start with a conglomerate of people getting together.
No.
The idea started with me saying to Dad, I miss those dances, and him saying, you can get books on it, I'll get the books, you learn the dances, and blah blah.
Your mother actually suggested the name.
That was some time later.
Yeah.
Mum. And that was a dispute. There was other people said, oh, I named it, and this person named
goodness.
it, that person.
Yeah.
But when you're sitting at the table and that person leans over and says that, and we all looked, I remember the moment, as I do remember the moment when I said to Dad, I miss those dances, and he said, get them. It stays in your mind.
Yeah.
Giving away a 6-year apprenticeship trade to play a stick with bottle tops. I think back on it now, I think, would I have done that if I had not been so upset? So I just was like, anyway, it's what happened, because I can remember saying, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to give this a go, I reckon a bush band. And of course, at that time in the 70s, it was when Australia was waking up to being Aussies. That Paul Hogan, we are Aussies, that sort of thing. So we were in the right place at the right time.
Definitely. Now, the original members, there were 5.
5 original members.
One was your father.
Dad and I, Grattan Brennan, Butch Singleton Hooper, Barry Halpin, of course, got mistaken for Lord Lucan, myself. That was the 5.
And surviving members?
Butch and me.
Your family remained involved right throughout as well, so your sister also spent time in the band.
That was a lovely irony of life. It is frustrating because historically that book will be carried on, and historically people won't know the real reason of how it started, because it's, it's Stan's memory as well as mine, really, because if he hadn't said, you can get books on it, I'll get the books and you there, then it wouldn't matter. Memories.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good memories?
Good memories, really, really good memories. I mean, in my wildest dreams, I could never have imagined becoming a musician and earning my living from it. Marco Polo, one of my favourite duck songs that was, and I believe they still do it. It's lovely to hear those songs still rolling on. Great songs. Thank you very much, Alicia. It's been wonderful. Reflecting on life. Far out. Good on you. Thank you. Hello, Greg Hastings here, and you're listening to Pirate 88. It's a fairly brief story, you know, the actual, the way it started.
Yeah.
I can't, still for the life of me can't understand that if you're writing a book about a band, you have the respect to ring me up and say, hello Greg, let's have a cup of coffee. But I don't know, politics of music.
We watch little children as they